Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault. Once again, I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a very high-end Sig P320. This is the P320 Spectre Comp. Now I know there's some people out there that don't like the P320 for whatever reason, and they might say there's no such thing as a high-end P320. Well, Sig would like to politely disagree. And we're gonna find out, is this really a high-end gun? Does it have all these features and do they work like Sig claims? Well, before I tell you about the things that I like and don't like about this really cool looking and awesome firearm, I wanna thank the people that always make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this fine pistol. And once again, it's coming from the collection of my good friend and local subscriber, D. He just wants me to use his first initial. So thank you so much, D. Once again, your collection is amazing. I want to thank my Patreons as always, because through their monthly donations and support, I'm able to buy equipment that helps keep the content coming here on YouTube. And the person that provides all of the ammunition for all of these range reports, thus making them financially possible. And that is my good friend, Mark from Brownworks. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you already know what I'm going to say. But if you're new to this channel, I want to introduce you to one of the finest grip manufacturers in the country. Mark at Brownworks is an artist. He is an amazing craftsman that can produce a wide variety of wood grips for a wide variety of different firearms out of a wide variety of exotic materials and woods. Go over to his website. I'm going to put a link in the description and a pinned comment, and you guys can go over there and see all the things that he has to offer. I'm telling you, I have seen so many amazing grips made for so many of my subscribers from Mark. He can make grips for guns like 1911s, Beretta 92, CZs, and he's always adding to his line. In fact, there's a poll over there asking you, what do you want him to make? In fact, I went over to that poll and I voted for the HK P7. Man, I love the P7. It's such a high-end gun, and I think having some Brownworks custom grips on those would be amazing. But maybe you have a different gun and you want grips for that gun. So go over there, vote on his poll, go over there and see everything he has to offer. I know that I'm rolling in some amazing photos of his fine work. As you can see, he does an exceptional job even putting on custom logos and engravings. So go over there, see what he has to offer. I'm going to put a discount code as well in the description and that pinned comment. If you don't see something that you're interested in there, make sure that you contact Mark. And when you do, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about this gun and what it is. I've already told you it's a high-end P320, the Spectre Comp. Obviously, what gives it its name is the compensator there in the front. So this is probably more of a competition race gun. Now, personally, I'm a big fan of ported barrels. I absolutely love my Glock 21C. And what's the difference between a ported barrel and a compensated barrel? Well, a ported barrel is going to have holes in the barrel, which usually, of course, vent the gas in an upward direction. And as the bullet or the projectile passes those ports, it actually has built up pressure because at that point, the barrel is still sealed. And that allows the gun to kind of have a downward force with the expulsion of that gas. A compensator does the same thing, but it's after the projectile leaves the barrel. So it has a little chamber up here in the front. I don't find that compensators work as good as ported barrels because once that projectile leaves the barrel, all that gas and all that pressure built up can escape immediately. And yes, this compensator will direct some of the gas upwards. You do still lose a lot of that pressure and that gas forward. Now, I don't really mind the ported barrels, and some people say, well, they have more flash. Well, I've never really noticed that, especially on 9 and 45. You might get that on a higher pressure cartridge like 40 or 357 Sig, but for me, the ported barrels are nicer because you don't have extra weight on the front of the gun and you don't have to extend the size of the frame. So some people will think those are better for concealed carry, but I guess for a competition gun, it really wouldn't matter. Maybe you want that weight out front, but I'm a bigger fan of ported barrels than I am compensated barrels, but the compensated barrels that I have fired, as said, on those 2011, 1911s have been really good, and they definitely still do function really well. Another thing about this particular firearm is that it does have a special grip texture. This does use the tungsten infused frame, just like the X5 series. However, the stippling is different, so you get some more custom work done on this, and I do not believe you can buy this particular grip module online. I might be wrong, but it is definitely special, and you can only get it on this level of firearm. So let's talk about the things that I like and don't like. First off, it's a P320. Now, the P320 is a pistol that has grown on me over time. When I first shot it, I didn't like it. I thought, well, it's kind of like a Glock, but not as good. But over time, I've really come to appreciate the modularity of this gun. I really do think the P320 and probably guns that are going to come after it are really the future of pistols. When you have that removable trigger group, all the different options when it comes to frames, barrels, slides, calibers, but it uses one fire control group. It's absolutely genius. Plus, it is the handgun of the US military. And anytime a gun gets a military contract, well, you guys know it's probably here to stay. So the 320 is going to be around for some time. I've already talked about the tungsten infused frame. This is actually a very innovative feature. So you get the features of polymer, the texture of polymer, all the ability to stipple it and customize it, but you get the weight of a metal frame. So this might not be the perfect frame or type of gun for concealed carry due to its weight if you're going to carry especially inside the waistband, but if you are using it as a range or competition gun, you get the advantages of both worlds. Another great feature that comes already installed in this gun is the magwell or the jet funnel. Now, I recently purchased one of these for my custom Sig P320 because they work so darn well. The only downside to these is once you have that magwell on, you can only run the 21 round magazines or an extended mag. I guess if you live behind enemy lines where you're only allowed to have 10 rounds, you have to have a neutered mag, but it has to be longer to fit around that magwell. But I really like that feature already installed on this pistol. You can buy them aftermarket and install them on any frame that can accept them, but they can actually be kind of expensive. So having it included in the package is really nice. And then finally, I really like the sights. I think Sig has some of the best sights on a stock pistol, even on their base models. You get the Signite X-ray sights is what I think they're called. Usually they have tritium inserts. They're all metal. They're definitely better than Glock sights. You know, the Glock sights are those cheap plastic ones. And don't get me wrong, I like Glock and I can shoot those plastic sights just fine. But man, is it nice to get night sights and metal sights right out of the box. So I really appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about a couple of things that I don't like. And the first two things are things that I've complained about on this particular model before. So the 320s don't have safeties. Now, I know some people say, well, it has a firing pin or a drop safety, and yes, it does. It is internal. But many other polymer guns have one or the other of a different type of safety, and that is either a dingus safety inside of the trigger like a Glock, or you have a frame mounted thumb safety. Now, Sig does offer the P320 with a thumb safety in some models. However, when it comes to the Spectre Comp, they do not. I believe they offer two different models on their website. Neither of them have a safety, and they really push the guns without the safety. And I totally get it, because many people say on a polymer striker fired handgun, especially one that you might conceal carry, you don't want a safety. That's perfectly fine. It's just like Glock. Well, then give me that trigger safety. I just feel like an inexperienced shooter, someone that does not handle firearms maybe as much as I or you do, well, they might have a higher chance or probability of a negligent discharge. I like my guns to be well built, but have some safety features that would prevent maybe a negligent discharge or an accidental discharge, and I can see one or both of those safeties would go a long way. It's just my personal opinion, and I know that the P320 had some issues when it first came out, especially when it came to the gun falling on the ground and accidentally going off. I just kind of feel like Sig needs to include one or both in all models. Another thing you guys are probably going to roll your eyes at, because I mention it in every video with a gun that has a trigger like this, I do not like the flat face triggers. Now, I don't mind it if other people like flat face triggers, and I totally understand why some people do. I've watched the videos on why maybe they're a little bit more ergonomic or they're better in general, and I think that's great, and I think companies should offer that, and if you like them, shoot them. But I think Sig should offer high-end guns like this with both options. So if you want the flat face trigger, you can get it. If you want a curved trigger, you can get that as well. I just find that I shoot the curved triggers a little bit better. It's also a personal preference and it feels more comfortable to me. But I totally get why the flat face trigger might be for you. I just want Sig to offer it in all models. Another thing I'm not a big fan of, as I said, is the compensator, which is the whole point of this gun, but it's not that it's that bad. I just prefer porting. I mean, they already put these little lightning cuts on the side of the slide. Why don't you just go ahead and port that barrel? That would probably be a little bit more efficient use of that gas. And then lastly, I actually think this gun might be a little bit too gaudy looking. Yeah, you got that gold trim on the barrel and on the trigger, and with all that custom cuts on the slide and the stippling on the grip, I don't know, it's not over the top. It's just a little bit too gaudy. It's like when you buy this thing, you're showing it off. And I've never been one to be flashy when it comes to colors. I think I prefer a gun to be flashy because it's cool. You know, if you go to the range with an MP5, man, it could be the stock HK black finish on it, but everyone knows how cool that gun is. You don't have to make a gun like this cool because it has gold trim. I'm not some type of gangster or drug dealer. Who knows? Maybe you are and you like guns like this, or maybe you're a pimp. P-I-M-P, and this would be the perfect gun for you. But for me, I like my guns to be a little bit more subtle than this. So from an aesthetic standpoint, I could do away with that gold trim. Just give me a standard nitride finish on both the trigger and the barrel. All right, so that's the things that I like and don't like about this particular pistol. So let's get this thing to the range. Let's see if it's all it's cracked up to be. Is this gonna be some amazing target pistol that's gonna change my mind on the P320, which by the way, I already like. It's not my favorite handgun, but I like it a lot. But is this gonna immediately make this pistol jump to the top of the pile? Well, we're gonna find out. I'm gonna set the target at 7 yards. We're gonna put a big old 20 round capacity magazine through this thing. I'm gonna see how accurate I am with it. Gonna see how this loophole delta point sight works as well. Very excited about that because the slide is milled out for this red dot. So here we go. Let's find out if I have any issues and how it shoots.
How many rounds does that hold?
And all I can say is this gun has some really low recoil. And I think even without the compensator, just the weight of this pistol with this tungsten frame, it would be light anyway. So I'm not really sure how much this compensator is working. It's obviously doing a great job. I mean, the gun barely moves when you shoot it, but of course it's only a 9mm handgun as well with a weighty frame. But it's obviously working, so I have no complaints. I really didn't notice too much of a flash, but looking through this loophole, I could see it a couple of times. So maybe if you're shooting in low light situations, that might get in the way. Another thing I noticed with shooting it is that the trigger is a little bit mushy than I was expecting. I was really expecting it to be a little bit more crisp, and this might be a complaint I have on the P320 triggers in general. Let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. I'll go ahead and safety check the firearm. Of course, I'm visually inspecting that chamber. We are good. So let me bring this over here to the camera, and let's look at this trigger. So, little bit of creep after it kind of hits that wall a little bit. Not too bad. See right there. Yeah, it's not as crisp as I would like. It just has that little bit of creep, and it's not always consistent with every pull. Now my other 320s I think have a little bit better trigger than this, but that just could be acceptable variations within the trigger groups themselves. I know that not all of them are perfect or machined to the exact same specifications, but I would expect something out of the custom works from Sig to be a little bit better than that. But it's okay, it's definitely a workable trigger, but if this gun's supposed to be a race gun, I don't think the trigger matches all of the other qualities that this gun is supposed to have. All right, so let's put the target out at a further distance. I call this the accuracy portion, but it's not really me bench resting the firearm. I just want to see if the group is going to open up. I also need to adjust this loophole a little bit. It was shooting a little bit low. So I'll put the target out at about 15 yards, put 15 rounds through it, and let's see what happens to this grouping. And that's not the best group I was hoping for, but I guess it's functional. I really think it's the trigger for me. It's just not as good as I was hoping. Now, maybe I've been spoiled lately because I've been shooting a lot of those staccato 2011s, and those have fantastic triggers, and this trigger just isn't as good. So as I said, maybe I've just been a little bit spoiled. Now, my range, the Frisco Gun Club, does have low light conditions on the VIP lanes where I am filming this video. And I can tell you, taking my time, I am getting a lot of flash from this compensator. Now, if I was outside, I probably wouldn't even notice anything at all. But I just want to take note of that in case your shooting situation would be something similar. It's just definitely worth noting. All right, so the next test I want to do is the quick magazine change. You guys know I like these jet funnels or these mag wells. And as a reminder, these guns can only take the 20 round magazines, or 21 round magazines. I believe that's what the witness hole says. Yes, 21 rounds. So I'm assuming if this is supposed to be a competition or race gun, I can drop this magazine, reinsert, get the gun back in order pretty darn quick, and hopefully this trigger, which I'm getting used to, I can shoot kind of fast. So let's see if I can change this magazine out and use it in some type of defensive or competition manner. And as expected, this magwell works fantastic. I am really happy with how this thing functions. And as you can see, it's not too big. Sometimes these magwells that companies can add to their firearms just get really big and obnoxious. This is kind of a low profile one that works really, really well and fits into this frame perfectly. Because this gun recoils so low, it's really easy to keep the red dot on the target. I also thought I shot the gun pretty fast. I'm getting used to this trigger. It just has that weird take up in the beginning just before the wall, but I can get used to it. After all, I like military spec and duty triggers more than I do competition triggers, but depending on your preferences and what you're buying this gun for, it's just something to take note of. As I said, I think it's a pretty good trigger for me if this was in any other P320, but if you're expecting the crispest trigger, you might not be happy with it. All right, so now I want to give my wife Becky a shot at this. You guys know I always want her to shoot every gun that comes through the Texas Gun Vault because she's a different person than I am. She has different preferences when it comes to firearms, and her hands are different sizes, and she likes and dislikes different things, so it's always great to get someone else's perspective. So I'm going to load this gun back up and see what she has to say. And it looks like we had a little failure to feed issue in the end. Now, when I was filming this segment, I began to notice that the ejections were weak and erratic. So I don't know what's going on. And once I noticed this, I went back and analyzed the footage of when I was shooting, and I had weak ejections as well. So who knows, maybe the spring tension of this is a little bit too much. I'm not sure. I don't think there's going to be a major issue with this gun. Who knows? It could be an extractor, or it could be just simply the spring weight. But since I didn't have any issues, we're just going to chalk this one up to maybe she limp wristed it, but I didn't see that on the footage. But I'm going to load up another magazine and see if the issue persists. And I don't think you can get a better stovepipe than that. I mean, that is a textbook stovepipe. Okay, so there is something it might be. It might be the ammo. Now, usually I bring a few different brands. I believe right now we're shooting PMC. Well, I'm going to move over to Winchester White Box and see if we have any more luck. And we have another failure to feed, so maybe it's not an ammo thing, maybe it is a gun thing. And then I began to inspect the firearm at the range, and I did discover something. There is a little bit of odd wear that I think is very premature and not characteristic of this firearm, and it is right up here on top of the barrel hood. In fact, I'm going to roll in a picture that I took here in the garage to show you. Now, why we have some wear and premature and odd wear up there, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe something in the slide is a little bit out of spec and we're getting a little bit of friction. I don't notice anything when I rack the slide. Everything seems to be just fine. Another thing that it might be is this compensator. The compensator is adding a little bit of weight, and that weight might be slowing down the action as the barrel is tilting. 9mm handguns don't really need a compensator, so that's kind of one of my gripes about this, and that extra weight might be what's causing this. So it could be the spring weight, it could be the compensator, or it could be a bad extractor. So I'm not 100% sure of what's going on. And please understand that just because I'm having these issues doesn't mean that you will have these issues. It could be just a problem with this particular example. I am in no way trashing the gun. All I do is document my personal experiences with a single firearm. There's nothing else that I can say or do. I know a lot of times people accuse me of having some type of biased results, but I just document what happens. I should also mention that I am the first person to shoot this firearm. When D lent it to the channel, he told me he hadn't even had time to get it to the range yet. So these are literally the first rounds through it. So does that change your opinion on it? I don't know, but this gun was brand new right out of the box, and I'm having these issues. But there is one thing I do want to try next, which is the hollow point test. Obviously, with a gun like this, you might want to use it for home defense, even though it's designed more for competition shooting, but the hollow points that I brought are +P. So I'm going to kind of do two things here. Does the gun run hollow points, and does the plus P ammo help with the ejection problem at all? Well, let's find out. And out of all the footage, this one ejected the best. I had strong ejections where I would expect them to go. I also had my best grouping. So maybe that means this particular gun likes the ammo that's loaded a little bit more hot, a little bit faster. So take that into consideration. Why that is, I'm not 100% sure. But as I said, my gut is telling me it's the weight of the compensator out front. So what are my final thoughts on the Sig P320 Spectre Comp? Well, there is no doubt that Sig spent a lot of time upgrading this gun and putting on a ton of features that many people will like. And this is definitely the type of pistol that my friend D likes to have. He is a big fan of high-end 2011 style 1911s with compensators. And this is just kind of a polymer version and a Sig's version of a gun like that. It's definitely not as expensive, but there is a hefty price tag that comes along with owning this gun. Is it worth it? I don't know. It's definitely a nice gun. But if it's going to be a P320, I think I like it to be more in the military or duty style of gun versus a competition gun. When I think of a 2011, like the staccatos that I've mentioned elsewhere in this video, those guns are designed for competition. They're designed to be shot fast. A P320 essentially is like a Glock. It's a duty gun. It's designed for police and military. Now, yeah, they've dressed this gun up, but I don't think with the extra price and the extra features, it makes it that much better of a firearm. Yeah, it can be cool looking. Yeah, it's cool because it has a comp. Yes, people are going to like that. But I don't know if it's all it's cracked up to be. The quality is definitely here. I'm not sure why I had that ammo issue and that feeding issue. But as I said, I just document my experiences, and you can take that data point as you want. Does it mean the gun's trash? Absolutely not. This is definitely a high-end gun. In my opinion, is it worth the money? Maybe not. Is it a gun that I'm interested in? No, it's definitely not. I would much rather have this gun be ported rather than have the compensator. But it's definitely a nice gun. It shoots well. It's nice to have that red dot on it. And it has tons of options that I know a lot of people are going to like. So on my star system, how would I rate the P320 Spectre Comp? Well, I know this is going to disappoint some people, but I'm only going to give this 3.5 stars out of 5. I don't like that flat face trigger. There's no safety of any kind. I don't shoot it that great, but that's more me than anything else. And then I had that feeding issue. So what's causing that? I don't know. I'm also not a big fan of the compensator, but that's the whole point of this gun, right? Now, before you tell me that I'm biased, that I just don't like compensators and my rating was too low, remember, I gave some of those staccatos that have the compensator pretty high marks. So it's just the compensator on this gun. I just don't think it's needed, and I'd rather have the gun be ported. But it's a nice gun. If it's a gun that you're looking at, you can't go wrong. But I like my P320s to be a little bit different, a little bit more military and police versus competition. But that's just the type of collector that I am. So what do you think? Did I get this review wrong? Do you like the Sig P320 Spectre Comp? Is it a gun that might be on your short list? Do you own one? And do your experiences with it mirror mine? I would love to know in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.